Welcome to this presentation of the findings of the Economics of Life Research Project and the Doctors Economic Research Project regarding the post-pandemic planning strategy of the new Economic Order Planning Program. These private research projects were initiated in 1971 to study the influence of economics on the lives of productive individuals. More than 500,000 doctors and other productive individuals attended economic education programs developed from the research project findings. Evidence-based capital accumulation, capital distribution, and endowment creation planning programs developed from the research have benefited thousands of participants. The new Economic Order Planning Program began in 2008. The goal was to mitigate the losses of the Great Recession. The planning membership classes of the new Economic Order Planning Program are the topic of this presentation by Dr. Don Guess, the director of the Doctors Economic Research Project.
The way we present our whole program, everybody, has to do with our classes of economic education and planning that would be available to association members with these associations that we're partnering with. And so that whole process we've seen before, but it's a very, very organized approach again, that we have an economic education membership, we have a membership for the savers, for the millennials, the Gen Xers, the highly productive individuals, the affluent individuals, and all the membership classes other than the economic education membership provide written book plans that lay out an action plan for these particular different levels of planning capability. The economic education membership is the only membership that doesn't include the written book plan that creates the action plan that allows the new economic order planning financial endowment consultants to be as effective as they can be, because the planning is excellent, it's done by a third party, and the new economic order planning program consultant finds themselves in the position of being a retained consultant to implement the planning that's laid out in the action plan. And so the first of our economic education memberships is the Thinkers Plan. And there's lots of thinkers among the doctors, and they're getting ready to do something sometime. And what the thinkers do is they exchange their time for information. They're constantly gathering information. So the symbol of this program is the thinker. This is the Thinkers Plan. And so the Thinkers Plan goes on for most of these people until their losses of surplus earnings to unnecessary income taxes and their losses of savings to unnecessary risk investments eventually create the energy necessary for them to overcome their own inertia and begin their new economic order planning program personal financial journey from less to more to achieve financial independence and personal significance. And so this ability to just be patient and allow the thinkers to think, because they will arrive at the correct conclusion, because eventually the income tax bills will become intolerable for them. And then they don't feel like they're being pressed. You don't have to feel like you're selling somebody something. You can let nature take its course, because these are highly intelligent individuals and they are not going to experience unnecessary losses for very long before they change something. So our goal is just to be there and be patient enough to see this thing through the way it needs to be managed. Then the second plan is the Millennials and Gen Xers entry-level plan. And that entry-level plan is the KITE plan. And the KITE plan is, again, a plan that is it's an unleveraged capital accumulation planning structure for productive individuals who are aged 25 to 52. That's the range for both millennials and Gen Xers, who have less than $14,350 of annual surplus earnings, less than $100,000 of annual household earnings, and less than 100,000 liquid savings. This group is just kind of getting started. And so they have exposure from the standpoint of anything that would happen as a catastrophic loss. So the KITE plan, this entry-level plan, allows us to help them by providing a personalized written earnings management and savings management plan to these KITE plan participants. And the plan participants, then they've got to provide the energy in the form of the surplus annual earnings. They need to make a commitment of 10% of their monthly earnings so they can move forward as part of this KITE plan. Then they can get the plan up into the air and they can maintain control of its flight by the way they save the surplus earnings. So millennials and Gen Xers in this entry level, the KITE plan, they allocate somewhere between $7,000 to $10,000 of their annual surplus earnings and savings through age 65. Every year they save $7,000 to $10,000 to power this KITE into the space and beyond the inefficiency of doing nothing, the inertia and gravity. And the new economic order planning program capital accumulation plan for these entry-level millennials and Gen Xers provides them with the action plan that they can follow and refer to and understand what they're to be doing. And the new economic order financial endowment consultant directs the implementation of the action plan and its multiplication of earnings and savings and then the year-to-year administration of this recommended planning. So that's where the financial endowment consultant plays this important role, is in the implementation of the action plan. And the KITE plan, it has its limitations. It's slowed down by the gravity of the lifestyle costs and the taxes on lifestyle costs and things of that nature prevents these individuals from accumulating much in the way of surplus. And then they have to be careful from a control point of view that if they don't follow through by funding the plan every year through age 65, then the whole thing comes apart. And so everybody has responsibilities in this planning. And if the principles aren't followed, from a safety point of view, this KITE crashes and destroyed unless it's stabilized by the tail. And that tail are the new economic order planning principles and the rules and the business structures and the implementation instruments that are required to make this type of planning work for these individuals. However, the outcome of the KITE plan is wonderful. For their annual contributions of $7,000 to $10,000 through age 65, these young individuals, millennials and Gen Xers, are able to create approximately $90,000 a year of spendable tax-free retirement distributions from age 65 to 90. So if they simply follow through on this plan, they're probably going to be pretty close to okay. Now, the second plan in level 2 participation is the mini rocket plan, and that's where for the first time leverage comes into the picture. And the planning gets remarkably better. So the more productive millennials and Gen Xers utilize this plan that deploys leverage to accelerate their personal financial journey from less to more. And a leveraged capital accumulation planning structure for productive individuals 25 and older who have somewhere between $14,350 and $21,350 of annual surplus income for 5 years. This is the leveraged tax-free life income program minimum level contributions. And they have to have that $100,000 or more of annual household earnings to qualify for the leverage. So it's very important in the mini rocket plan that these plan participants, once again, they have to provide the surplus earnings and the surplus savings and their credit capability. And then they have to fund the plan for 5 years to power the rocket, this rocket that we've got, the mini rocket, beyond the inefficiency of gravity and maintain its flight path to financial independence. And if they do this, the outcome is somewhere between $2.5 million and $3.8 million of spendable retirement distributions from age 65 to age 90. So the outcome of this plan is substantially greater, you'll notice, than the outcome of the unleveraged plan for that same group of individuals. The mini rocket plan, then, it provides millennials and Gen Xers, they allocate the $14,000 to $21,000 of annual surplus earnings and savings to power this rocket away from their own inertia. And then the new economic order planning program, capital accumulation plan for the productive millennials and Gen Xers, once again provides the action plan to accomplish all of this. And the new economic order financial endowment consultant, they direct the multiplication of the earnings and savings and the year-to-year administration of the action plan administration. So the mini rocket plan is very effective. And the new economic order planning program provides them with ideal planning, and new economic order planning program consultants provide the planning implementation services. So from an efficiency point of view, these mini rocket plans using the leveraged tax-free life income program are unequal. There isn't anything like that that can be done with the traditional 401k plans and the things of that nature. And so with the mini rocket plan, there's control over this thing. The participant controls it because the leverage requires no assignment of collateral or personal guarantee. There's safety of the plan because the guaranteed growth of the plan cash values repays the leverage, and it provides the guaranteed tax-free life income during the participant's lifetimes and then generates the mortality gain at participants' deaths. So the efficiency of even the mini rocket plan, where we're dealing with individuals who have very, very limited amount of available surplus earnings. If they've got that $100,000 family household income, annual income, and they have reasonably good health, this plan is the most efficient option that any individual in that age group could select to fund their retirement and even fund their personal significance. So I think that, again, we move up the ladder from the standpoint of plan participations in the new economic order planning program, and we get to the rocket plan. And this is for the highly productive individuals. And these are the individuals that can really take advantage of the leverage because they have the earnings to be able to contribute to maximize the leverage. So the highly productive individuals utilize the rocket plan to deploy maximum leverage to accelerate their personal financial journey to financial independence. And a leverage capital accumulation planning structure for highly productive individuals age 55 and under who have the 30,000 or more of annual surplus earnings and 100,000 or more of household earnings, the savings for retirement and endowment purposes is multiplied by the leverage to maximize the guaranteed outcomes. So the plan participants, again, in the rocket plan, they have the responsibility for the surplus earnings and the surplus savings and the credit capability for just 5 years to fund this plan, because this is a 5-year plan. And this 5-year plan powers this rocket beyond the inefficiencies of gravity and inertia and maintains control of its flight to financial independence. This is a very stable structure. And $100,000 of annual plan contributions for 5 years creates somewhere between $3,200,000 to $31 million of spendable retirement distributions from age 65 to 90. $31 million is a 25-year-old, and the $3 million is a 55-year-old. And that demonstrates, once again, the power of compound interest. And once again, it takes the same amount of effort to generate that $100,000 worth of annual surplus for 5 years, or to have access to personal savings to augment that, or to have credit capability to do it. It's the same amount of energy, whether you're age 25 or you're age 55. But the efficiency isn't there because you don't have the time for the interest to compound. And so this is just, to me, a classic example of the value of compound interest. That's a big difference between $3,200,000 spendable retirement funds and $31 million. So with the rocket plan, the highly productive individual provides the surplus earnings, the power of the order planning program calculation plan for these highly productive individuals provides the action plan. The new economic order financial endowment consultant implements that action plan that generates this multiplication of earnings and savings and administers the year-to-year administration of the planning process. Now, I think that if we can all just realize that our most effective role is in implementing planning that's based on the facts of the individual circumstances, meaning what you collect in the form of information on what they spend at home and their assets and their liabilities and their general attitude toward what they want to accomplish, what their goals are, that to be retained to administer a plan that has a guaranteed outcome that's that wonderful leads to all kinds of referrals and appreciation on everybody's part. And then at the end of the trail, you have this huge endowment of the mortality gain that's equal to whatever they took out in the form of life expectancy funding. It's just remarkable. So we have an opportunity here through this plan to provide ideal planning. And the new Economic Order Planning Program consultant, as a consultant, you get the opportunity to provide the planning implementation services. So this plan maximizes the efficiency because of that 300% leverage and its ability of the conversion of surplus earnings, personal savings, and credit worthiness to guaranteed life income at participants age 65. The control is there because the leverage requires, once again, no assignment of collateral or personal guarantee. The growth on the leverage continues for 15 years to maximize the Rocket plan's guaranteed life income. And you saw the level of those incomes. It's incredible. And then they're safe because you have the guaranteed growth of the plan cash values to repay the leverage. You've got the guaranteed tax-free life income during the participants' lifetimes, and you've got the mortality gain that's generated at participants' deaths. Now, it's very, very difficult to find anything that equals that type of performance. And why are we interested in it? What's the difference? This is an example here of an actual doctor's written plan without leverage. And this was a 53-year-old physician. And you can look at this and see that she had a net worth of probably $800,000 of savings here. And at age 53, she had a critical capital mass requirement, the amount of savings required to allow her to achieve financial independence at age 65. She had about somewhere around $4.5 million to $5 million need here. And so with the planning of just the defined benefit pension plan in this circumstance, she was able to know through the contributions to the pension plan and the growth on her other assets that she would reach the present value of financial independence at age 65 at her age 63, somewhere between 63 and 64 here, 10 years. Well, that's really effective planning, and that's much more effective planning than would have been accomplished had she stayed with the 401k plan that she had when we met her. And so that's a tremendous step forward to know that in 10 years, you're done. And you can retire, you can cut back on your practice, you can do what you want to, but you know you're on the way. And that's such a psychological advantage for the doctor to not have to worry about that. But in our planning process, again, we're trying to find the most efficient outcome. So she's 53 and has the wherewithal to qualify to participate in the leveraged tax-free life income program. And you can see here that with the leveraged tax-free life income program, she reaches the present value of her financial independence at age 65 in a little over 3 to 4 years, somewhere in there. So this is the difference between no leverage and leverage. And it's the same doctor, the same amount of capability, the same willingness to work hard, and this is the difference in the outcome. It's a wonderful message to be able to deliver. I have an enormous amount of fun talking about this program, as you can probably tell, because it's a wonderful program. It's been that way for decades. And now we have a new planning capabilities with the leveraged tax-free life income program and the 7702B plan that we never had before. And they're just wonderful additions to the planning program. So we get to the final capability here, and that's our new economic order planning program, our affluent individuals participation level, and that's the satellite plan. And so the satellite plan allocates affluent individual surplus savings. This is a savings management plan to achieve personal significance by creating the perpetually multiplying endowment funding for their families and or for charities that support their values. And so with the satellite permanent endowment plan, it's a perpetually multiplying endowment creation planning structure for affluent individuals who have $1 million or more of surplus savings that exceeds the savings they need or require to fund their lifestyle costs through life expectancy. Now, you might wonder, where do these affluent individuals, so how do I find them? Well, the affluent individuals are all around you. And once you know you have a plan for them, and you're talking about this program and this affluent individual's participation, and the fact that in order to participate in that level of planning, they have to have $1 million of savings that exceeds the amount they need to finance lifestyle costs, all of a sudden you start running into individuals who have those capabilities. If you're not talking about it, if you're not telling the story, I guarantee you will never run into them, because they're not going to come looking for you. But if you're capable of telling the story of simply the planning membership classes of the new economic order planning program, this story is going to come up. And it's a very attractive story, because these people are looking for something to do to multiply the effectiveness of their savings. So what the surplus savings were, what we're able to do with their permanent endowment program is multiply the surplus savings 200 times over 5 generations by mortality gain leverage, which generates perpetually multiplying funding for the 501c3 nonprofit organizations that support values that are important to the affluent individual. And this is just, it's a wonderful program. The affluent individual provides the surplus savings to power this satellite up into space beyond the inefficiency of inertia again and the gravity, and enable solar energy to maximize intergenerational growth of endowment funds. Because what energizes this whole intergenerational growth is the reality of mortality. And human mortality is a reality, just as being closer to the sun creates more energy is a reality for these satellites. And so I think if you will think about where the energy comes from to accomplish these objectives, all these programs once again begin to fall into place and are easily understood. So the new economic order planning program endowment creation plan provides the action plan. Once again, there's a written book plan. And as part of the written book plan, there's an action plan. And the financial endowment consultant coordinates with the Permanent Endowment Foundation to direct the intergenerational multiplication and administration of the planning. So we have the Permanent Endowment Foundation, which is a donor-advised public charity, that the affluent individuals establish a donor-advised account, and they make their gift to the donor-advised account of the Permanent Foundation. Those funds are then used to acquire the $1 million paid up mortality gain contracts on individuals in whom the 501c3 that the individual wishes to benefit has an insurable interest. And so the Permanent Endowment Foundation will assist any of you in this process, so everybody understands exactly how it works and what's going on. And they're not difficult, but they just need to be brutally to accomplish the objective. And that objective is this perpetual multiplication of endowment funding. So the satellite endowment program is very efficient. The permanent endowment satellites, once again, we're powered here by something that's just as powerful as the sun, and that's human mortality. And we're able to multiply personal savings, surplus savings, exponentially over multiple generations because of our ability to use mortality gain. There's control on this program. The endowment funding multiplies intergenerationally to generate mortality gain to fund these 501c3 nonprofit organizations that support the affluent individual's values. And finally, we have safety, because the mortality gain values are guaranteed by the life insurance companies, and the intergenerational growth is administered by the Permanent Endowment Foundation. And I can't emphasize enough my own request of you that everybody makes the commitment and develops the competence necessary to become confident enough to be able to tell this story in an effective manner.
Additional information on the new Economic Order Planning Program and its post-pandemic planning strategy is available on the following websites: New Economic Order Planning Program, https://neopp08.com. Economics of Life Research Project, https://elrp71.com. Doctors Economic Research Project, https://derp71.com. For additional information, please contact Trish Delatorre at the email address trish@derp71.com.